Surprise is not spending all the time figuring out what your passwords are in the future.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Okay, so we got live streaming going, and all right. And we are going to start off with Eric Anderson, who's going to present Bitwarden. Please take it away, Eric.
Okay. Everybody can hear me, correct?
Yes.
All right, and I'm sharing my screen now. Oh, way. So Bitwarden is. I was previously a LastPass user, or refugee, as I like to call it. But they doubled their pricing, and so that caused me to say, what else is out there? Bitwarden has a very similar model where it's storing an encrypted version of all your passwords on a server somewhere, and you're using a browser plugin to essentially download that encrypted chunk, and everything's decrypted locally. So you don't have necessary control over the data itself, but you have the encryption to protect you. So versus like an entirely local password manager, you'd have someone wouldn't have access to the data and possibly encryption. But with that becomes a convenience of, since it's out on a server somewhere, you can use it on multiple devices. They have browser plugins. I think they have a standalone app. They have mobile apps for Android and iOS, and so very convenient of being able to access all your accounts from anywhere. Unlike LastPass, it is open source. It operates, I know what they call what some people call a like open core model, where most of it is open source. There's like if you look in here, I'm on the GitHub page for their server that you can self-host if you want, and you can see there's a chunk of code here called Bitwarden license code, and so there are a few features they hold out to try to, get people to pay them if you want to self-host, but majority of it is all all the core features you'd need. Pricing is very reasonable. You can use basically most features for free forever. So if can't really beat that. If you do want a few of those advanced features that they hold out, like I like the two-factor authentication with my YubiKey, that type of thing, you can grab that. There also are organization structures where passwords, obviously you don't normally like to share passwords because then you can't attribute who's logging in as what, but nevertheless, it's a fact of life. Sometimes you have to share passwords. They have business plans too for folks. So depending on your your needs, it might get expensive, especially these enterprise offerings. And you had a lot of users. But then again, I don't know. I pay $10 a year, and I figure I'm supporting them, and I'll spend more on that at Chick-fil-A. So it doesn't really bother me, and I like the fact that it's vast majority open source, and even the parts that aren't, I guess, truly open source, the source code is still here. So from a security perspective, you can browse it and check out, make sure it's safe, or a third-party auditor can check that's safe. But there is some licensing thing, I think, even if you self-host. I don't do the self-hosting, so I don't know much about that. But it is an option out there. Hopefully y'all can see. I try to bump up my font or my resolution to be big, but I use it majority on my phone, which looks a lot like the plugin here, so I can't really easily show you that, but you can imagine. I actually created just a dummy account on Bitwarden just so I wouldn't accidentally show all my passwords. So I don't have any in here now, but we're going to create one so you'll see what that looks like. But normally here would be a list of all your logins, and you can search for them. So what we're going to do is, rather than use those, I know you'd set up those burner accounts. But I figure I'm a programmer, and 2 or 3 commands I can just create an app, and that way I don't have to worry about password resets or anything like that. So yeah,
Well, show me up then.
just there's no styles with this. This was just run a couple quick commands for a Rails app to set it up. But so we have a sign up form. Now, there's 2 ways with most password managers you can go about it. One way is you enter your, like even on the login screen, you enter your email, you enter your password, you log in, and then it does this little prompting thing at the top where it says, hey, do you want me to save that for the future? That's one way to go about it. And Bitwarden supports that workflow. I don't really like that workflow because then if you can remember your password, to me, it's not a good enough password. So I actually, in the settings, under that prompting just annoys me. So I actually disable that, add login and, hey, we noticed your password changed, because sometimes it triggers even when you're doing something else, like a one-time password type thing or something. And so I just tend to disable that. If I'm on a new site and I'm signing up, my general process is first to go to Bitwarden and hit add login. So, and we're on and so you give it a name that I can find it later. Username, in this case, this little demo app I created uses an email as a username. So let's do example.com. And then you can hit this little, I don't know what that icon is, recycle or something, to generate a password. The password generation, I typically like to do 20 characters, because if you go more than that, sometimes, you can obviously do it different per site, but just as my default, I set it as 20, just because some sites don't like more than that. Although I do all combinations, and you can kind of tweak this however. There's also a passphrase option, which is a little easier to remember and probably just as secure. I tend to not do that because some sites require that ampersand or funky character, and it doesn't really have an option for that. You can switch how many words, you can choose the word separator a little bit, but it I find this gets by more password checking, and obviously it's plenty secure. So I'll say I'm going to select that one. So that's got my password. I can view it if I want, but and then it's automatically going to put the URL in. It's going to assume I'm adding it for this page. I'm a little bit tidy, so I like to clean that up, but it doesn't matter. It's going to match it based on the domain. Basically, there's a setting for how it matches that, but the default is essentially looking at that base domain. So even like a subdomain, it will match on. There's a bunch of other options we'll go through in a minute, but I'll just stick with that for now and save it. And so then you just kind of click it, and it will populate into the right fields. It's fairly intelligent about knowing what fields. Obviously, didn't know the name here, so we'll add that, and we'll hit our sign up, and now I'm logged in as John Doe. If I log out, and you notice here it's got a little 1 up there to indicate there is a login for this site. So I can, click this sign in and click it again to populate. Oh, not sign up. Sorry, log in, and I can click it again to populate. So when I come back to the site, do that, and I log in. If I edit the password, again, if you enable those features that try to detect that on the page, after I submit this, it would pop up that little alert that, hey, did you want to update your password? Again, I generally prefer not to. What I'll do is you can just click on it and it'll try to populate everything, or you can hit the person and it'll grab the user or password and grab the password. In this case, see, I've got 3 password fields, so it's probably not going to populate them right. So I'm going to manually just grab the current password, and then I can go in here and say edit it. So I like to do it kind of, I guess, this kind of manual going in and editing the record. But like I said, if you prefer more, let it prompt you and stuff, you can go that route too. But I'll say, hey, we want to do a new password. I'll select that one, save it, and I'll copy it into the password fields that I want. And again, I'm being selective here on the password fields just because there's 3 of them and they need to be different because it's asking for the current password. So if we log out, go back to the login screen, and now my updated password should work. Yep, it does. If you go and view this record, you can actually look at the password history. So if you want to see old versions of the password, sometimes that's helpful. Some of these other options I skipped over is you can put it in a folder. I used to do that, but then I found it was never useful just because it's far easier just to, if I'm looking for demo, just to search for demo than it is to navigate through folders. So I don't use that, but it's there. Some people may have different workflows than me. You can have it prompt for like a reprompt for your master password, like if a password was very sensitive and you wanted that extra check, where even if your password manager was open, you can put notes. I use this notes often for like those questions where I ask you your mother's maiden name and you can make up an answer that's not your mother's maiden name, and I'll put that in there so that way I'll remember what that is later. You can use the custom fields, which is cool, but nothing misspelled. But anyway, but I don't tend to use that. I just tend to pop it in the notes. Again, whatever your workflow is. This authenticator key I don't use, but what it is if you put the seed value for those time-based one-time passwords in, the ones that change every minute that you put in like a Google Authenticator app, then what you can do is actually, this last one here, little verification code, is you can actually essentially have it auto-populate that time-based one-time password. I don't do that because that sort of, to me, defeats the purpose of multi-factor authentication, because now you only have to know your master password, only one factor. You're getting rid of, the whole point of having that app on your phone was something you have. So I don't use that, but if you're not that caring about it on a site to do the two-factor as well, then it could be a convenience. Let's see. That's for, let's see, I have a few notes I made. Login data. One thing you noticed I had, when I went to the login screen, I had to actually say, populate this. And that's a feature, not a bug. LastPass would just, as soon as the page came up, would populate it. There's a slight security issue with that where, basically someone gets like, say, a cross-site scripting on a site. They put a sort of a hidden, out of the way login form that then auto-populates, and then they're able to kind of extract out your username and password. So by you specifically saying, I want you to populate this page, it kind of protects against that. If you really don't like that and you want the convenience, again, dig under these options. There is an option for enable autofill on page load, but I leave that off. There's a few other options that I think are useful. The clear clipboard, if you're doing that manual copy and paste I talked about, where you're not having an autofill, but you're just grabbing the password or the username, it's putting that on your clipboard. It's nice that it clears that. You can clear that out after a minute, so it gives you time to paste it wherever you need. But then you're not worried about some other app pulling it from your clipboard as much. Let's see, any other. I guess the only other setting that I often make sure I do is the vault timeout. You can say how long before, after you use it. So like if I set it to immediately here, then, and I populate this, then after I submit, no, it didn't do it, but it should lock it basically after the timeout. I don't know why I didn't do it. I generally set it to something higher than that because I used to actually have it on immediate, and it just was annoying to constantly type your master password. I don't like like never or even 4 hours seems like a long time. I don't know, just additional layer of security to me. So another nice thing about this is you don't have to just type passwords in here. You can have, for example, secure notes, which is just like I know I have a note on my actual pass account that has the some bank information, that I put in there. And so if you're wanting to store other types of information, it also has like a type for a credit card if you want to populate that, and identity for like personal information if you want to populate that. I don't use those two myself, but I do use obviously the login and the secure note. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, any one of these things you can, let's see, you can put an attachment for. Oh, it's kind of, yeah. So if you, then that's one of the premium features is a little bit more control over that attachment, I think, or something, or max size or something. But that can be useful. So like if you get like a file that is maybe like your backup codes or something, I don't know, that you want to just attach to a account, you can do that. So the attachment's a nice feature. And the only other thing, let's see, we could generate is a send, which is sort of unrelated to passwords, but I actually use it a decent amount. And what a send is you can, if you need to send text, like say a password or some sort of sensitive information to someone else, or a file. And again, the file is one of those, I think it requires you to pop out into the not the pop up, but I think the file is one of those that has a little bit restrictions if you're not under the paid account, but we'll just do text. So we have our text. There's a ton of options. You can even enable more options if you want. I won't go through all that. You can go through it if you want later. But you create a send, and this basically gives you a URL to that file or text that you can then send to someone else. And kind of the decryption key for it is part of, I think, the URL. And so Bitwarden, I don't know exactly how it protects that. Actually, there is, I know, an option for into those options. You can set a password on it. And so maybe that's the way to protect it if it was really sensitive. You can also do things like expiration and that type of thing. But that's a commonly, I use it mostly to send to myself from one device to another. I need to send a file from a phone to a computer or vice versa. It's like an alternative to emailing myself when I don't feel like setting up some sort of networking. So the sends are kind of nice for that. Every now and then they're a little bit flaky, so I wouldn't necessarily rely on them for everything. But and then I think once I delete them, and then I think they go away. Yeah. So I think, let's see, is there anything else on that? Importing was the only other thing I was going to mention. There is importing options or in documentation. When I moved from LastPass to Bitwarden, I didn't have to type in all, several hundred logins from different systems that I have. I just followed their instructions, and I think it was like a CSV file that it ultimately resolved to in a certain format. And it took me probably 15 minutes, and all my stuff was. So if you're hesitant, thinking it's going to be a hassle to move to another system, and you're on a system you like, they have documentation on different, coming from this, moving to Bitwarden. So that's sort of an easy thing. Mobile client. I mentioned there's a mobile client, which like I said works pretty much exactly this. Oh, one other thing about the mobile client is it works with apps. So, which is some password managers don't. It basically ties into the accessibility features of the Android system, and so even if you're using an app and you need to log in your bank or whatever, it's still going to work. It's still going to prompt you. So you can. What happens is when you focus on a field, in the mobile browser, it'll pop up a little pop-up to say, kind of, do you want to fill that in? So you don't have this little button up here, but all you do is just focus on the field, and it's going to pop up a little thing that says, do you want to fill it in? And it'll fill it in, which is a nice feature because a lot of the times you're using apps. So I think that's all I have. I don't know. Is there any questions about Bitwarden? I've used it for a couple of years now, so I may have an answer.
Thanks, Eric. I haven't used Bitwarden, but it looks like you've got a nice program here.
You're using the Bitwarden service to back up your passwords too.
Yeah, so I don't self-host. I've
Right.
never tried the self-hosting. I think it's a .NET thing, but in SQL Server, although there are like Docker stuff for it, so probably wouldn't be too terribly hard to do. But I figure at $10 a year to get them to do it for me, I'll take that any day. Plus, hopefully, it supports them to keep developing this type of stuff.
That's awesome, Eric. I learned some things there. I'm a KeepassXC user on Windows and Linux, so I hadn't heard about it, and really appreciate you showing us that. That's a great tool.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's all I have.
Okay. Jace, can you show your screen again? As I don't have that email pulled up.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, Dan Calloway with Roboform.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay,
Gotcha.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I hope this works. This is the, whoops, what happened there? Let me stop sharing for a moment.
You're sharing your screen. We can see that you see us seeing you.
Okay, I got a bunch of stuff on the screen that I didn't like. I don't know if I did a share the entire screen or a window last time. Okay, there we go, I think. Okay, can everybody see this form? Can everybody see the Roboform password
Roboform
manager?
password manager. What is it and what are its features?
Right, thank you. Okay, I've been using Roboform password manager now for about a little over 2 years. I haven't gotten into the detail that Eric did with his Bitwarden with that. I've pretty much been using it for just capturing passwords. When I create an account, it saves those and it remembers those. And so that's pretty much what I've been doing with it. I think everything that Eric showed us with Bitwarden Roboform is capable of doing that I've looked at anyway. But let me go through this. And then what I plan to do is I created a burner Google account. And what I'm going to do is log into the burner account, change the password on it, and do that kind of thing for my part of the demo. So what is Roboform? It's obviously a password manager. It's for personal and business use. It's cloud-based, and that's how the user interfaces with it through the web browser, through an extension in the web browser. And there are extensions for Roboform in every major web browser out there. My web browser of choice is Brave, which is Chrome-based, Google Chrome-based, and but there is one for Firefox, and you name it. I think there's even one for Edge as well. But there is for mobile application. I have an iPhone and an iPad, a couple of iPads. So there is an iOS version for those devices as well as Android. So it does support Android devices and Apple devices as well. It has something called the Anytime Anywhere access from Windows, Mac, and iOS, and Android support. So it's capable of allowing you to access your passwords remotely, either on your LAN on another device or outside the LAN across the internet. There is something in the Roboform called a one-click password, which you click one button and it will generate a password for you and fill it and record it. I have not used that, but it exists. One of the nice things about Roboform is that it fills in forms for you online, and that's for credential forms or other. And when I say other, I mean filling in information like your home address, your social security number, your banking information, and that kind of thing. It captures those while you're working in the background, and it does that in the background while you're working. That's the one thing I like about Roboform is it does a lot of things for you. It tells you what it's doing, but it does a lot of those things for you, frees you up just to do what you need to do, and then it captures that information for you. Roboform captures passwords while you surf the web. It allows the user to generate passwords that meet certain criteria, and I'll go into that when I change the password and show you how that works. Because a lot of websites today, you have to meet certain criteria, as you know, when you generate a password, or it won't take it. Especially government websites, and I have a couple of those that I access, VA and DFAS and that kind of thing. The nice part about Roboform is you only need to remember one password ever, and that's the master password. My master password is 18 digits long. I've never forgotten it in 2 years. If I do forget it, though, there is an emergency means of recovering it. And I've not had to do that, so I just know that it exists. So you can do that. I'll show you the screen for licensing here, but the licensing for Roboform, it is not open source. It is proprietary. And it starts at $23.88 per year, supports up to 5 devices on your system. Okay, let me go on down. The Roboform Everywhere keeps your passwords and your personal information safe. And when I say safe, it is encrypted with AES 256-bit encryption with password-based key derivation function, SHA-256, in the cloud, and it syncs in with all your devices. It does have sync capability. There's the desktop and mobile apps provide offline access to Roboform, as I mentioned. You can store your data in folders, and you can pin important information or favorite logins. So you can create folders like Eric was showing us. I don't use folders. You can pin certain logins. So for easy access, I will show you that. That capability I do use. It has a powerful search capability so that you can find the logins that you want when you need them. If you want to look at those and edit those offline or otherwise, or personal data. If you need to access your personal data, you can search for that. So for instance, if I was searching for my banking information and I needed to know a PIN number for that site, I could search for my USAA login through Roboform, and it would pull up my personal data and display my PIN number for me. It has import capability from all major password managers. It has also an export capability as well. And you can have a free account, but it is, of course, limited with limited capabilities. And it's available here on their website. Let me go ahead and pull that up. And so let me do copy the link address and go over here. That way I have my thing set up here. And let me just put that in and paste it and go. All right, so here's the Roboform website. Here are the features for Roboform. You can start the business trial, or you can get the Roboform for personal use. Let me go down the page. And it talks about the one-click login, the capture passwords anytime, anywhere, that kind of stuff on that page. For the personal stuff, click on that. And it talks about the individual or family plans that are available. So you've got the Roboform Everywhere family plan. You can click on the one button to buy it, and it tells you what they are. If you go to the individual plan, you can buy that as well. When I started my Roboform account 2 years ago, I got a 60% discount for 3 years. So I'm finishing up my 3rd year now, and then I got another discount for an additional 2 years. So I've got 5 years of Roboform for what amounted to under $100, I believe. So here you can see for the individual plan, this is what's free as opposed to what is paid for by the Everywhere plan. Okay, and so there are some differences like cloud backup and two-factor authentication and syncing. If you've got the free account, you don't get those that you get with a paid account. You do get the business, and we'll talk about that. There's a support link, obviously, for online system support. You've got a Roboform manual that talks about that, and a help center. So there's a lot of helpful information you can gather. You can even chat online with a representative, or there's a number to call them as well. And then when you download, the download basically is just access to the extensions within the browser itself. But I just go to the browser to do that. I don't worry about downloading it from here. I never did when I did that. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go out to YouTube where there's a Google account that is required because this is a Google product. And what I did was I created a burner account. My account is called Data Pioneer, all one word. And the burner account that I created, which I will destroy after this particular presentation is over, is called Data Pioneer separated. So Data first name, Pioneer last name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up and I'm going to click on this and I'm going to sign out of YouTube under my account. And I'll show you what Roboform does. So I'm going to sign in now, and I want to sign in using the burner account, which is the Data Pioneer account here. So I'm going to click on it, and you'll notice a little pop-up comes up next to it. All right, and that pop-up is generated from here, okay? And if you ever close your session or whatever, you have to enter the master password to get back into it by default. And so you'll get a warning here that that your session is ended. So anyway, I hover over this, and the account that I created was or captured rather, was Data Pioneer alternate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click it, and that auto-fills the password and logs me automatically into the burner account here on Google. So I'm actually accessing YouTube now with the burner account here. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come down and I'm going to click on settings to alter the password, to change the password. I want to come down here to Google account, view or change your Google account settings. And then I'm going to come over to security and I want to change the password. So the password was last changed on February the 7th. I'm going to go ahead and click that. And then I'm going to click on manage settings. All right, and it pops up this screen here, so I need to log in. So once again, to verify who I am, I'm going to hover over this and click the alternate burner account. All right, so it pops up this information, which allows me to change my password. All right, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hover over this screen again, or this icon again, and rather than fill it in, I'm going to click this little cog here for settings. It pops up what's called a password generator. Now you can access the password generator without doing that a couple of different ways. You can come up and click this thing icon and then click this icon to pull up the generator. All right. Or you can come over and click the icon and hit I think it's called a hamburger menu. And it pops up another menu, password generator, and you get the password generator there as well. I like to do it down here though, just for ease of use. All right, so I've got a 15 character password here, so I want to bump that up to 20. All right, and then I can elect not to allow for special characters or allow special characters, or I can turn these on and off as well. But I didn't have this one ticked, so I'm going to go ahead and tick that so that I do have a special character that will be used in that 20-digit password. If I elect to have hexadecimal, I can do hexadecimal 0 to 9 and A through F only. or I can exclude similar. And what exclude similar means is that it will not allow two characters of the same kind in that password. All right, so they're very, very secure. All right, so when I got that ticked out the way I want it, I come up to generate and click that, and it pops up a password for me. All right, and so that's the password I want to use. I click the fill button, and you'll notice that it filled that information in over here. So I'm going to go ahead and close this window, and then I'm going to put in fill. And well, I think I made a mistake. Hold on a minute. Let me try that again. I'm going to generate another password and fill that password. And then I'm going to why is it not taking it? Oh, change password. I'm sorry. My bad. All right, so I'm going to change the password on the screen, and it pops up this little thing here saying that it's been updated. So I'm going to click update to update that information from the previous password, and it says it was successful. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up and I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to sign out of all accounts. All right, and then I'm going to come back in. I'm going to click on the burner account again, and then I'm going to hover over the icon and select the Data Pioneer alternate. And now it's going to take the new password, which is 20 digits long with special characters, upper lowercase letters and numbers, and it accepts that password. I don't have to remember it. All I have to do, if I click off of this website, come back on it, and want to access the YouTube account or any Google account with this burner account, all I have to do is hover over the icon when it comes over to the password field and select it, and it fills it for me automatically. If there's any other data on the site itself, such as a street address, a state, driver's license number or whatever, if that information has been saved in Password Manager, the Roboform Password Manager, it will autofill that as well. All right, so that's how I get into that, and that's how I change the password. If I get back in here, I can go into logins, and I can look at only my pinned logins, okay? And so here are my pinned logins. And then I can come back and I can look at all logins. So I'm going to look at all my logins. I'm not going to press any of these, obviously, because it'll pull it up and I'll expose, not the password, but I'll just expose the account. I don't want to really do that. And then what else can I show you? I believe that's really all I really wanted to do and with tonight with the burner account. Any questions about what I did?
Question. You said it was proprietary. Does that imply that you can't run it on your own machine, keep your keys off the cloud where they, you can't keep your keys off the cloud with it?
You can. I've never done it, so I don't know how to do it, but I do know you can do that because I've watched a few videos on Roboform that tell you that you can accomplish that, but I just haven't done it, so I don't know how to do it. Dr. Mears.
Okay, and I think I either misheard you or something got missed out of the, got dropped possibly from the sound. You said if you turn off duplicates, i.e. disallow duplicates, especially in this case a 20-character password, that would increase the security. Doesn't that, I think you meant you didn't want to turn off the disable duplicates because that would reduce the entropy for 20 characters. Well, out of 26, it would reduce it by a factor of about 200.
Right, you're correct. You're correct.
Okay, so that got, I think that got missed. Either I misheard it or that got dropped over the line.
No, what I meant to say was that you want to not turn that off.
You want to enable and not disable.
Yeah, you want to
duplicates.
enable the duplicates. You don't want to disable it.
Right. Okay. Good.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, we got our wires crossed here, but you want to enable the duplicate capability. You don't want
Yeah.
to disable it. Yes, that's
No,
correct.
bad idea. There are some locks though that won't accept duplicates. They're usually these days they're not too common anymore because they are, in fact, they now be considered sort of toy locks.
Correct. And as I think I mentioned it, but I'll say it again, Roboform allows for two-factor authentication as well, especially if you're going to get into the account. If I go up to, for instance, let me go to the web and go to www.roboform.com and bring that up. And if I do a login, I'm not going to show you the password, obviously. And it doesn't bring that little icon up for this because this requires the master password to get in, which does not get exposed when I'm doing it here. But if it allowed the icon to pop up there, then it obviously would expose or allow anybody to be able to do that. But anyway, let me put that in. Oh, it does. You turn that off. Oh, looks like they've, oh, here we go. That's where you put in your email address. Sorry about that. And I don't mind exposing my email address. And the password now does not get exposed.
Now we know the first few characters of your master password.
Whoops. Now you shouldn't have talked because you messed me up. Sorry. I can't type and listen at the same time.
I've never been able to type a password successfully when somebody's around, even if it's invisible.
Let me try it again. I think I'm fat fingering tonight. I am. Let me try it again. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm hitting the wrong keys on this thing. I don't like this laptop, by the way. Shift and that. Okay, now let's see if that works.
So you're backing up your Roboform to the Roboform cloud then?
Yeah, it gets that automatically. Since it's a one-time authorization, I need to go to my email and check it and make sure that I have the. Because it's probably because I tried a couple times and failed. It wants to know if I'm really me, and so I would need to access my email, and I'm not going to do that. It's going to ask me to access my email and pull up a one-time password that it's going to send me. Although I guess I could do that. Give me a second.
You could disconnect your screen.
No, that's all right. I don't really mind. Let me get in here. Go over here and let me do inbox and Roboform. And it's looking for this number right here. I like this security, by the way, because I failed to access it a couple of times. It wants to make sure I am who I say I am. Now, if I put that in there, Control V, put that number in and submit, it should let me in. Okay. And so this is my access, and I'm not going to go much beyond this because I'll start exposing stuff. But this is where all of my passwords reside. And by the way, I have about 250 accounts with passwords in Roboform, and I don't have to remember any of them. All I have to do is remember that master password that I entered. If I need it other than logging into it as I, access the site. So if I'm trying to get into my bank account, for instance, this has got more than just a password entry, of course. To get past the password credentialing and such, as soon as I hit the website and hit the login button rather, when it pulls that login screen up, those icons come up by Roboform hovering over the password field, the username and password field. So it auto fills it for me, but it only auto fills it for me when I hover over it and select it. It doesn't do it automatically, which is good because sometimes you may not want it to autofill, as Eric said with Bitwarden. All right, so this is the settings I have. This is the emergency access if you ever forget your master password, and other things. Here's the support for it. You can rename or move. So if I don't like this Acer online account name, I can come up here and I can select it, and then I can rename that particular name so that it's a different name I can remember better. I can create a folder. I can create a shared folder that I can share with my family. I can copy one of these accounts to another folder. I can rename and move a folder and do other things. Okay, so that's pretty much all I have to cover. Let me go ahead and get out of that. So that's Roboform in a nutshell. Any other questions anybody might have? No?
Okay, it doesn't sound like we have any more questions. So thank you very much,
Yeah, let
Dan
me stop
Calloway.
sharing. Okay, you're welcome. Let me stop sharing my screen.
Yep.
Okay.
Wonderful. And so that was the proprietary entry in the password manager shootout. Next, we have Jas Eckard presenting KeepassXC.
Hey everybody. During the pre-show, I was testing my mic, so my mic's not as good as it should be. If anyone doesn't hear what I say, just say so, and I'll try to repeat myself. Okay. So yeah, I'll be talking about KeepassXC. Let me now share my screen to my virtual machine, and that should be it. Okay. KeepassXC. It's not the easiest name to remember, and then sometimes I can't even remember if it's Keep Pass or if it's Key KEY Pass. So it's KeepassXC. It is an open source cross-platform password manager. The name actually comes from it's a complicated name, right? So where did it come from? The C part is a community fork of KeepassX. KeepassX stands for cross-platform version of KeePass. So the original product was KeePass. They made it cross-platform, took the .NET version and made it into C++ using Qt and called it KeepassX. And then this became a community fork of that. I guess that must be a proprietary fork or something like that. Linux fork. But anyway, so yeah, so it's KeepassXC. It's an open source project. One of the main differences between this and the others that you've seen tonight is that there's no kind of cloud backup that you have automatically, whether that be through a service that's provided by the group that's creating the software, or one that you can host yourself, like you could with Bitwarden. At least not that I'm aware of. And again, I'm still fairly new to the software, so there may be something in the works or available now that I'm just not aware of.
Jas, I can't see your screen.
Can't see my screen?
No, I'm not able to see your screen. Am I the only one not able to see the screen?
I can't see it either.
Okay. Let me see if I can adjust it to me. And does that?
No.
No one can see this?
I can see it. I was having trouble with Dan's. I don't know if it's me or the platform.
Yeah, I can't see your screen at all.
Yeah, I can't see it either, Jace.
I'm joined from both my desktop and my phone, so I can present from my phone, and I can see it on my phone, but I don't see it on my desktop.
Oh boy.
Weird.
Oh great. I tell you what, let me just reconnect just for good measure to see if that helps. It may be because I am doing a share of a window of a virtual machine. So All right.
Yep.
Is that any better?
No. No joy.
And I don't see anything. No.
Okay. Thought. Okay, I will. I tell you what. Well, weird because y'all were able to see it before the meeting started, right? Those of you
Yep.
that were on.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me.
Chase, can you join the meeting from within the VM and then share the screen?
I was just thinking that. So yeah, let me do that real quick. Problem is whether my microphone is set up with it within the VM.
Alternatively, can you connect to the meeting audio just from a telephone call?
Yeah, yeah, that's a possibility. All right, let me allow this. Okay, join the meeting. Sorry, y'all. That's the reason we test. Even though the test didn't work, apparently. All right. All right. Now I'm in. Let me try to share my screen. Okay, can everyone see?
Nope.
No, sorry.
No, I can't see it either.
I got myself. Yeah, everything's nice. I got a crab, a cobra, and a cobra. I got all the bosses. I got all the bosses.
This is Jace. Can everyone see me?
I see a mouse moving around.
Okay. What about this? Can you see this?
We just see a black screen, Jace, with the mouse moving around. What a deal.
Well, I tell you, George, you want to go ahead and so the one main point I wanted to point out was that KeepassXC is file based, and so if you want to back up your KeepassXC, you need to back it up to the cloud. I normally put it in my Google Drive, but George has a way of putting it into Dropbox. So if that's okay, George, and you're ready, why don't you take it away?
All right, sure. I mean, it uses Rclone, which you can do just about any cloud service with it, but so let me do this first from my phone. All right, so this is the Android app. It's fairly simple. In the Android app, it lets you open from just about any cloud-based. So you can open it from Google Drive, and if you do your own Nextcloud and things like that. So the problem is getting it so from your phone, it can access it just about from most popular places. So this is my just a simple one entry I've got just for the meeting here. So what I can do, just adding a digit to it and saving it, which syncs it out to Dropbox. Hang on one second, let me. All right, and then on my desktop here, I've got the same password file before I made the entry. So it's just and then the script I had sent out. So I run this script in the background by cron every few minutes to my real account. And all it does is it basically compares what you've got remotely versus the other end. Bounce you back to the passwords. And here you can see it's got the change I made on my phone. And then the same way you can edit it. I'll stick in another entry.
I'm not seeing your screen there, George.
That's weird. I can.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Never mind.
And then I will rerun the sync program, and it looks and it says local passwords are newer than remote, and sends it off to Dropbox. And then the one thing I have noticed is it doesn't synchronize automatically on my phone, so but you can synchronize it manually, reload the file.
I went to the VM, I could not see my
Live
screen.
streaming is on.
Okay.
Go
So
ahead,
we're
George.
streaming again.
So it's not quite as automatic as the other options we've seen tonight, but it's also, if how much you trust Dropbox versus Google versus any of the other optional services. Um, kind of determines how if you feel it's more secure versus one of the other ones. I know a lot of this came about with the breaches that LastPass had a couple years ago. That's kind of what I was originally a LastPass user as well, and between the breaches and they changed their pricing and things like that, which is what shoved me over to KeepassXC. But then again, I kind of liked what I saw with Bitwarden, so I forget what I didn't like about Bitwarden first time around. But as far as the synchronization piece, that's all I really had kind of prepped. So I think Jace had more of the background as far as demoing it.
Well,
If
I'm
you
willing to
wanna-
try. I'm willing to try it again. If y'all are willing to sit with me and hopefully we can see it. I don't know.
Have at it, Jace. I can see the screen now. Yeah, and I can see yours.
I can see it too.
Okay, it may be because fewer people or a couple people have dropped out. I don't know.
Or the live streaming's off.
No, it's
Oh.
back on.
Or it could be that
Good
we
deal.
have a new live stream. We never know. But yeah. So anyway, KeepassXC. It's I just did an apt get, so it's in the Debian repositories. I know it's in Ubuntu and Fedora and Rel as well. So it's probably in your distro's repositories. Zipper or Pacman or apt or DNF or Yum or whatever your merge, whatever your package manager is, it's probably there to get KeepassXC. When you first launch it, you're going to be presented with a wizard. I'm getting ahead of myself, so let me go back to where I'm at. This is the this is the GUI window of KeepassXC. I've got it locked, of course, and as with everything else, you've got this little eye with a slash through it. You can show what your password is. So the database has been locked. Now I've unlocked it. And this is what you saw on George's desktop. This is the layout of the tool. First, I'm going to show you the locking that you just saw there. So the screen is locked. You want to, of course, lock anytime that you step away from your desk and you're in an office area. You can do that from here or from the little button that I had here. Also Control L, as it says. One of the settings that I recommend, and I think it's by default not on, is under security here, lock the database after inactivity. That's similar to what you saw on the other two. But at least in the Debian distribution, it was off by default. But I like to have that on. So anyway, so to create a database, you either go to here and create a new database. This will go through a wizard, which is what I did, which is what you go through when you install it for the first time. I went in here, called it UC lug passwords. I kept the default settings here, but you can tweak those as you like. There's some more settings here with your protocols, your algorithms that you prefer, and then the password for the overall database. I'm not going to say that, but or I'm not going to fill it in. But anyway, so you'll see here that it calls the main folder the root folder, and you'll see when I hover over it, this is the path that the database is put to. When you go setting it up, you get to choose where that is. If you forget where that is, you can either hover like I did here over root, or in the database, it's kind of weird, database security. Is it database security? No, database report. Yeah, it's database report. On the statistics, that's the file path to the database. And like I said, this is a file-based password manager. You can see that it's here in my home directory, UC passwords.keybx. You have to sync it if you want to, back it up with either George's method, or like I say, I have a little note once a week for myself to upload it to Google Drive. So anyway, with that, you've got let me get out of this. Then you have entries in here. This is similar to what you saw on the other ones, but because it's not browser based, it's a window. You've got you can go in here and you create a new entry. There's not particular types like you saw in Roboform, something like that in 1Password, where you can say the different types of entries. They're all the same type of entry. You just fill in or don't fill in what you want to have. And usually what I have is really mostly what I'm interested in is the notes. There are some other advanced features that I don't know much about. So there's a lot about this that I have not ever used. So for example, on this one, I created a fake credit union PIN number for when I get onto the ATM machine for my IRA account. That's supposed to be funny. I can go in here and I can go back and change what I want to change. That's similar to what I had. The icon for bank was not here, so I had to actually put a custom icon in. It was just I did a Google search and uploaded a little bank icon. So anyway, I talked about the lock. Creating an entry. Okay, yes. So you can either create an entry either by going here, create a new entry. You can click on the little icon here to create a new entry, or you can, what I always do, right click and create a new entry. And that's what we saw earlier. Likewise, you can edit this one, clone it, and change it however you want to, or delete the entry. Deleting really just puts it in the recycle bin here. That's kind of a weird thing, but you'll want to every so often clean out your recycle bin. So yeah, so this one's this top entry here is an entry that I put for this virtual machine. The username on this virtual machine is Jason. Its password is UCLug. I'm going to destroy the VM after this meeting, so Those of you on YouTube that are watching, ha ha ha, you're not gonna see it anyway. But I didn't fill in everything of that. And when I started out, similar to what Dan was saying, where he populated his with another password manager, you can import, and that's what I did, a CVS file. It also understands, 1Password and KeePass, the older version of the database. But for years, I've been using my Mozilla account and my Google account. Whenever Chrome or whenever Firefox asks if I'd like to save the password, I've been using that for years, and it just came to my attention at my last job that said you can't use that anymore. That's a little less secure than it should be, than a regular password manager. So that's when I started using a password manager, because it was dictated by the company I work for. So that's when I shopped around. George was actually the one that turned me on to KeepassXC. But anyway, I exported from Mozilla and from Google my passwords from my websites, and so I was able to easily populate it by clicking here in CVS file and just import it this way. That made it a lot easier. Of course, now since I only have one login to whatever website, but I use it on both Chrome and Firefox, I would have two entries here in KeepassXC. So that's some maintenance, a little bit of annoying that you have to actually go through, but I can live with that. Just like the other ones, you can generate a password. It has the very similar capabilities. The one thing I didn't notice the other ones had is this extended ASCII. You'll notice that you've got an umlaut E, you've got the degree symbol, you've got circumflex O. I don't know what this is called. There's a thorn. Hey, I don't have that on my keyboard. I don't know about y'all, but anyway, that's a really weird kind of feature. But it's like the others. If you're the password that you need to generate for a certain whatever says letters, numbers, capitals, lowercase, these symbols, that's the sort of options that you have here. It also does passphrases similar to what you've got at the other one, and you can, this one, generate pesticide, upstairs, upskirts, ion, Jimmy, subtext, rectify. That's 7 words. That's too many words, so I'm just going to lower it. Yeah, pavement, finalist, spoilage, marshland, domestic. Let's change that to dashes as the separator. Space dash. Oh, there we go. But anyway, that's like I say, it's similar to the other ones, and you can do that from just the menu here, or if you want to go in and change your password in the entry, you can generate it by clicking on the same icon, and it'll populate it inside the record here. Now the others were web browser based. This one's application based, but there is web browser extension, much like they had, that will connect to your running application. I've got it installed here on Firefox already. It's a little quirky sometimes. If let's say, for example, I'm not logged in properly, and I can go over here to Reddit, and I'll just log out my burner account here. Like I say, it's a little quirky with the connection, because what this the extension is actually opening a socket to the application. So you have to have the application running, or it won't work. You won't fill it in. Much like was it Roboform that had the little icon there? You've got the KeepassXC icon here that you can fill in, and I just fill it in by clicking on it. Alternatively, I can right click and choose just the password, or both username and password. I'm glad that someone told me finally what TOTP stands for, one-time password. Now I'm going to have to look into what these features are on this application, because that's pretty cool. But you can use it that way. If you were to like change your password, it's a little wonky sometimes. So it's not got the pull down like the other two had. You have to go in here and look at all the entries. I'm going to log in. I'm going to now see, this is Firefox asking me to save. And that's what I had been doing for the past several years. I don't want to do that anymore because it's not company policy. But let's say if I want to change my password, and I hope I can remember how to do that in Reddit, if it will let me do that. Kind of slow. Okay. I should have written down how to change it. Change password. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to show another thing here. When the database is locked, and because I've got it timed out, it will lock itself after 240 minutes or seconds, I think. You'll see that this got a lock now. So even though I click on it, it'll go over here and say, okay, I'm going to launch the other application, or the application KeepassXC. What's your password there? And depending on your window manager, it may pop back, fill it in. Okay, see, this one doesn't, but Enlightenment does for me. And then I click it, and that's my old password. If I decide to change the password, see, now that's Firefox asking for a securely generated, but I could also use KeepassXC's password generator on the form right here. And I don't want to do it. I don't want to do that one. Let's see. Yeah, see, those are words. I don't want to fill. Well, what the heck? Let's fill it in. And we'll fill in that password. And it puts it in both places. I click on save. And that's Firefox asking. I don't want to save it through Firefox. Now, what's supposed to happen here? That's good. Okay, so what happens is the extension puts a little banner across the top saying, is this a new username and password, or do you want to update burner UC lug? In this case, I want to update. You can also say, never ask me this again, or just dismiss it this one time. So I'm going to update this. And I don't remember. There's always been are you sure? And then this happens. That's one of the quirky things about the extension, both Chrome and Firefox, that I found is sometimes when I change my password, it doesn't bring up that banner, or sometimes it brings it up and I save it, and it's an entry that comes in several times. So it's a little bit quirky in a lot of places. In order for you to use the browser password plugin, you have to go into the settings here and go into browser integration. It is probably disabled by default, so you have to enable it. Tell it which browsers you want to integrate it with. So for me, I put Chrome, Chromium, and Firefox. I don't use Brave like Dan does. And then it'll I'm assuming what's happening here is it opens up a port. The application opens up a port that the extension can connect to, and it's kind of it's a weird way of doing things, but it's I don't know if it's more secure or if it's just a kind of a hack to get around things. But again, it's just something to be aware of. It's different than the other ones, and maybe not as robust, you know. So I'm going to lock it and show you again. Now that I've got it locked, you'll see my extension icon has changed, and it says the database is not open. So I clicked on reopen the database. It launches the other application, and then you'll see the color change to green. Yeah. Now, if the application is not running at all, you'll see it. You'll see it's also like that, but it's checking. It says I can't connect to your application. So you can click reload, but until you actually launch the application, it's not going to be able to do anything. Right. So it's still can't connect to it. It's one of the things I'm telling y'all to be aware of some of the I don't know if they're security features or if they're quirks or if they're bugs. How you want to consider them, you might consider them bugs. But now this is the old message before I actually relaunched it. I reload. It's going to do a connection to the socket, redetect the login fields, and that's where it would fill in my username and password, that sort of thing, if that makes sense. I'll go over here and I'll show you Google. Google and Microsoft and a lot of the bigger websites are changing how they do logins. Here on Reddit, you have the username and the password on the page to log in. That's similar to the app that Eric had created. But I don't know if y'all use either Google or let me log out of Microsoft as well. If you use them, and a lot of, like I say, the more secure sites, what they'll do is they'll have one page to log in or to put your username, right, and then another page to put in your password. This is where if you change your password, you got to be careful and maybe copy it to your clipboard, because the banner may or may not pop up here on top. I have found. Yeah, see there. It thinks KeepassXC thinks that I changed my password, which actually I may have. I'll think about it. I may have changed it in another browser, but password was changed 45 hours ago. So yeah, that's not right. So I'm going to dismiss that. So I'll just go here and show what it's like on Microsoft. Sign in. I haven't heard anyone else, so I'm wanting to just have a quick acknowledgement that I'm not speaking into nothingness.
I'm following along, Jace.
Okay, great. All right, so Microsoft site, you put in the, I'm going to click on the icon there, and so there's no icon here. Okay, so I pull it. There's a little pull down. This green is KeepassXC. I could have also right-clicked and go in here and fill password only and sign in. Let's hope that I didn't change the password before. Never do changes before your demo, right? But I must have done that for the Google account. So there we go. Is that everything I wanted to talk about? The one, like I say, there are some quirks to, especially the browser extension. And there's a lot more features that I don't know about. I think George knows more about these that I know of. Especially one thing I'm looking forward to is the SSH agent and whatever the Secret Service integration is. George, do you know anything about?
No, I don't use those.
I think these are a way to, instead of having your GNOME, no, I don't really know. I'm assuming it's something similar to the GNOME key chain. What is it called? Keychain? Yeah. But I don't know. I haven't used it yet. But I'm looking forward to finding out what the SSH agent is. And I think that's all I have right now, just as a quick demo. It's free and open source software. Well, let me see. Is it free? It is under the license of GPL2 only or GPL3 only. So yeah, it is free software. But because it's free software, it's got quirks to it. Oh, YubiKey. Hey, that's pretty neat. So there's some stuff about it I don't know about. I do have to, like I said, I have to back up. I give myself a alarm every Friday to upload if any password changes over the week. Any questions?
Do we lose Jace?
I'm still here.
Okay. All right. Okay. So,
Any questions from anyone?
yeah. Well, I don't have a question. I just want to add that, like George said, you can store your password database in the cloud with KeePass, and it's encrypted, so it doesn't really matter if it's in the cloud. It's encrypted, and nobody, even if somebody else does get it, they're not gonna read it without having that password, or if you secured it with an your private RSA key. That's the only way you're gonna read it. So I think that's a pretty good option of using KeePass on your laptop, and then storing a backup of the KeePass database in Dropbox.
So if y'all can still see my screen, I had put in the plugin, or the extension rather, in Chromium and Firefox, but I had not added it to Chrome yet. So I was just going to, if y'all are willing to have me stick around, I'll just show you what that's like. Or if there's any other questions.
Not so much a question, but I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, because KeePass is keeping your password in a vault file and it's open source, there's actually a variety of clients that you can use to open this. So if you don't like the features of one program, try a different one and see if it has the features you want, or the interface you like, or the password generator you like, things like that.
Is that right?
Yeah, so you guys are using KeepassXC. I'm using Keepass 2 straight from their website. It's actually a .NET Windows app, and that is their recommended way to run on Linux. It doesn't have a very good password generator, but it has an SFTP plugin that I utilize with a Android app that also does SFTP, and it'll actually do diffs on the database. So when it syncs back to the phone, it's like, we have changes here. Do you want to merge all the changes? Instead of just wholesale replacing the file, it'll do diffs on the Vault database itself.
I'll be dang.
But again, the password generator function within those are not great. So going to something like a correct horse battery staple is a good option to end around that.
Oh, and another thing I just remembered here was so the website are in this other, I guess you call it a folder, the KeePass browser passwords. So if you'll notice here, account.live.com, signup.live.com, login.live.com, that was all, they're all the Microsoft account. When I signed up, so it's indexed by the website's title, I guess you might say, the beginning of the URL. So whenever I signed up for the first time, that's where it kept the password that I created initially. Then the next time I logged in, I went into the login.live and it didn't have it. So I had to create a new entry here. Then whenever I went to modify my account, I had to go to account.live. So there are, like I said, there are some tweaks, some quirks to it. I'm going to download the favicon, by the way.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest pet peeves is it doesn't seem to work with multiple like subdomains and things like that real well.
Alan, was it you that was talking about that other application? Could you show us that right quick?
I'm not in a setup where I can show that off right now.
Okay.
But maybe as a seconds to another meeting or something. I can kind of prepare that, and maybe we can kind of just do an addendum.
That'd be great. I think that's all I have, really. Oh, there was one thing I wanted to show, the search I wanted to show you. The other two had this, but they didn't talk about it. But if you do a search on really anything, dummy. Yeah, so my Microsoft account, there's no indication that it's Microsoft. It's just live, right? So I'm going to go here. I'm going to edit it and put it in my notes. Microsoft. Now, when I do a search, yeah, there, found it under notes. But for Google, it's accounts.google.com. So that's what the search does. Looks through all your entries in your. Let's see. What about my credit union? Yeah, there it is. Look for not only title, website, username, notes. It'll search any of the different fields. I guess was the point I was making. Otherwise, I think I'm through.
Okay, thank you so much, Jace. That was great. Yep. Go ahead and send the claps up.
I really appreciate y'all pulling your weight. Those were neat, and to see how similar all the different ones are, but yet how different they are too.
Yep. Okay, so I realized that when I restarted, I'm hoping when I restarted the live stream that I didn't whack the first part of the live stream with Bitwarden, but that's a possibility. But I'm hoping to save it as two separate files. I was just in a hurry, and then
Yeah.
so
well, thank you for hosting tonight. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna turn live streaming off. Stop live.